We all know it's freezing on the plains, and this may be the coldest take we've ever heard.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into this special Saturday edition of Locked On Auburn. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. We're dapping it up on this Saturday with the Darrell, Dapprich, and we're going to have plenty of commitments to talk about, or at least one, we think, from this weekend. We'll discuss that, of course, later in the show, but we just had to record a little extra for this, Darrell. One of the I love a strong take when somebody just puts themselves out there and say, hey, I'm planting the flag and this is what I believe in. I'm going to say it with my chest. So Michael Bratton, who does an SEC podcast, he went on as a guest on 3-Man Front, which is one of the shows on WJOX up in Birmingham. Let's play the clip, Darrell, and then there's just so much to jump into.
I'm not buying the hype. I don't like the way Hugh Freeze is going about this. I ain't spending $1 million on a quarterback, but you don't have to go to the dollar store to get a quarterback either, Hugh. I think his reputation is overblown because he beat Alabama twice. People forget that he lost to Vanderbilt twice in that same span. I think he is not an elite coach, and I don't like the way he's building it through high school. You could do that 4 or 5 years ago. I think you have to do it in the portal these days. I think there's a good chance heading into next season, Hugh Freeze is on one of the hotter seats in the SEC.
All right, so there's a lot to get to. There's a lot to get to with this. The biggest thing that stood out to me was, it's just the first time I've heard somebody say this, that he was building the program the wrong way. I've never heard anybody look at what Hugh Freeze has done on the recruiting trail at Auburn and say, no, that's not the way you need to be doing it. It's eye-opening. It's allowed me to think for a second. It's like, are we all just saying the same thing for the sake of it? Like, no, you need to build through the high school ranks. Well, it's a crazy take, in my opinion.
There are so many crazy takes in that segment. It's like hard to remember all of the wrong things that are said and that are unfactual. Look, I'm going to say this, and I've said it before. It's just because me and you doing a Locked On Auburn podcast, we're not immune to criticism, strong takes, as long as they are based in any kind of research or some sort of, I know opinions are not facts, but sometimes when you give opinions and you present them, it's nice to have done a little research. So let me just say this. For someone to say the things that he said, you either have an agenda, it's personal, there's a personal dislike for who you're talking about, you're lazy and don't want to do any research, or you're as smart as a pair of clown shoes. I don't think it's 3 and 4. I don't think he's lazy, and I don't think he's dumb. But there's something. No,
he has a very successful channel,
right? No, so there's something, but there's something then about what he said that there's an incentive there. There's a motive there. Let's start with the not building it the right way. So he makes a comment that the only way to do it, or the best way to do it right now, is through the portal. Which at first, when I heard that, I thought he was an Ole Miss supporter because that's what Lane Kiffin is doing. So when you do research on that statement is completely unfactual because Hugh Freeze has the 11th ranked transfer portal ranking in the country as of right now. We know the names, the receivers, the defensive linemen, Antonio Kite. I mean, it's just simple. All you have to do is point and click to get that information, and his class is ranked right outside the top 10. How is that not recruiting through the portal? So that's the first misnomer.
Well, and last year it was like top 3, right?
Okay, so exactly. So how is that not a strategy when between 2 years he's averaged 6th or 7th in the country in the portal? So sure. So there's a credibility issue right there. Like, just look it up. Second of all, if I was to ask you in the last 5 years, the 2 most successful programs, not only in the SEC but in the country, who would pop off your brain right away?
Bama and Georgia.
So when he says not building it the right way, then someone needs to tell Saban and Kirby Smart that, because that's exactly the way they've built. Even during the NIL transfer portal era, Kirby Smart and Nick Saban have been heavier on the high school recruiting rankings. Case in point, this year, Georgia is 62nd in the country in transfer portal ranking. Alabama is 67th. Awful. But I suspect they're going to be 2 of the leading teams in the SEC contending for a title with those abysmal portal rankings that Mr. Bratton thinks is so much more important. But then you look at their high school recruiting, and Georgia's third and Alabama's sixth. So you tell me what's the better blueprint. I think it's a marriage of both. But to say one is more important than the other, or that Auburn's not addressing both, is factually false, invalid, and very just not very honest, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he's bringing talent to Auburn that we haven't seen in a hot minute. And I don't know how you can point at that and say that I don't like the way he's building the program. So, I mean, that's probably the strongest of the 4 or 5 takes that he made in there. Another one that's not really accurate, and people that, don't like Hugh Freeze love to point out that he lost twice to Vandy at Ole Miss. And that kind of came up after Auburn lost to New Mexico State last year. It was a similar kind of parallel. It's like, oh, that's what Hugh Freeze does. And it's like, well, when you look at when Ole Miss peaked, those 2 years in the middle of his tenure there, those are the 2 years he beat Alabama. And Bratton says that the 2 years that he beat Alabama, in that same span, he lost to Vandy twice. And that's not true. He lost to Vandy the year prior to that. He beat Bama 2 years in a row. And then in his last year there, he lost to Vandy again. So those weren't the same teams. It's not like he beat Alabama 1 week and then dropped to Vandy like the following week. Like that's not what happened there.
It's why it's so frustrating, is because I'm a guy that hates double standards. I hate when people will criticize one coach for something, but somebody else gets a free pass and is exempt. And I'm going to give an example of this later on. We talk about the hot seat take. In this scenario where he consistently brings up the Vanderbilt loss, again, wrongly, not in the same time frame. Conveniently, I went and looked. I just searched his name along with Kirby Smart to see if there was any criticism about Kirby Smart losing to Vanderbilt, because he did his first year in Georgia. Crickets, nothing. So why is Hugh Freeze getting skewed and getting held accountable for losing to Vanderbilt at Ole Miss, where Kirby Smart lost to Vanderbilt at Georgia with a better roster and better facilities and all that resources? Right. That's what I hate. You criticize one and give the other grace and a free pass. It's not consistent. That's where the bias, agenda, and personal attack starts to come to the forefront when you start doing things like that, picking and choosing, cherry picking.
Yeah. So there's some other things that I think is interesting, specifically his comment about the quarterback. And we said this, we did several shows about this during December. And I think we need to bring it up again. So that's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets, whether it's for a sporting event, whether it's for a concert. Darrell, you and I have both done that for both of those types of events. You also can buy, comedy, whatever it is. Game Time has you covered. And Darrell, there's several things I love most about Game Time, but one of them is when you see the price there, it's not like, okay, it's a $20 ticket. Then you go to checkout. It's like you're spending $74 because of fees and all of this stuff. It's all caked in. And I think that's really, really important. And I love the honesty of it.
Just used them to buy some tickets at Fenway Park, went to a game, brought a customer. He said, how in the world did you get these seats? Be perfectly honest. And it was that, what I love about it is that little lightning deal. You scroll over a seat and there's a lightning bolt. And that's like a special deal for a special time. I clicked on that, got 4 tickets that normally would have been a lot more expensive. And so it worked out great. I love the convenience of that, where they offer little promotions. And we looked good in our customers' eyes. Really enjoyed using the app and had great seats.
Awesome. That's awesome. So use code Locked On College when you download the Game Time app today. Locked On College, all one word, for $20 off. Thanks to Game Time for sponsoring the show. Darrell, the comment that he made about like, okay, sure, you don't want to spend $1 million for a quarterback. That's fine, but you don't need to go to the dollar store either, is what he said. And so you go out the first year, you get Peyton Thorne, and like I don't think Peyton Thorne's as awful as everybody acts like he is. I think he's fine. I think he's a fine quarterback. But let's not even talk about Peyton Thorne for a second. Okay, sure, you don't want to spend $1 million for a quarterback, which is what Bratton's saying, which is a reasonable thing. It's like, okay, we'll just get somebody better than Thorne. Get somebody better than what you have. And the question that I asked over and over and over again, you did the same thing when the transfer window was open and there was kind of some rumor and some dramas, is Auburn going to go get another quarterback? Is who out there is better than Thorne? And no one was ever really able to answer that question.
For a while, the Riley Leonard thing was the one that I felt like would have been a significant upgrade. And he was,
sure,
the rumors was that's what he was asking. But look how that turned out. Got hurt. Can't play. Hasn't played spring. They don't know when he's going to come back in the fall. Question mark. Well, if you do that, Zach, and you spend that kind of money on Riley Leonard, can you go get the kids that Auburn got in the transfer portal and in their high school recruit? Who knows? I don't think so. There's only so much that can go around. So Auburn chose the path of least resistance to upgrade the offensive line, upgrade the receiving core. Doesn't mean they were cheap. They just allocated their funds somewhere else. Yeah. Again, he's not a dollar store. That's such a what is calling a quarterback a dollar store quarterback just reek of a personal attack? You can say he hasn't measured up. He's not playing well. They need an upgrade. That's just taking a shot. And again, I don't know what spur or burr is under his saddle that he so just seems angry at this program. But that's another unnecessary shot that he took. Nobody has said that Peyton Thorne has played to the expectations or the level that we think he needs to, and he better. But he's got weapons now, and so let's see what happens in year two. And he's already proven it. In the past, he wasn't a dollar store quarterback when he was thrown for 3,000 yards. Right. Uncalled for, unnecessary. And again, do a little research as to why Auburn decided to use funds somewhere else.
Yeah. And then obviously the comment that Hugh Freeze is going to be in the hot seat next year, which I don't know. I mean, if they go 5-7, but like you're still going to have a top 10 class, right? And so I think most Auburn fans are going to be fine saying, okay, let's listen to everything the man has said since he's been here. We're building for the future. It's about 2025 and beyond. And everything he's done as far as building the program, whether you think it's the right way or the wrong way, everything he's done has been for the long-term improvement of this program. And to me, even if you fall way shorter than what you're expected to this season, I don't think there are going to be a ton of Auburn fans that are calling for Hugh Freeze's job.
No, this goes back to the double standard and ignoring one flaw and focusing on Hugh Freeze is when it's Hugh Freeze. So I love playing these little games. If I was to tell you that a coach entered the SEC, went 5-5, 6-7, 6-7, and lost to the worst Auburn team since Doug Barfield, do you think that coach would have been on the hot seat perhaps coming into year 4?
Maybe.
That's Eli Drinkwitz. That's the bio of what happened. Lost to Auburn and Harsin in a horrible way. I mean, now he turned it around the rest of the year and ended up getting 6 wins. Hot seat? No. Look, if Hugh Freeze goes 6-7 again, I think that hot seat to me means you're about to get fired. Does his seat get warmer? Absolutely.
Sure.
Because year 3 with this recruiting class and the NIL money and all that. But to just say after 2 years, the Brian Harsin situation was completely different. Why he was let go after 2 years. Auburn typically doesn't do that.
Sure.
It's just a silly take. It's out of left field. It reeks of engagement and just wanting to get people to react to it and to, click on it or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know why he believes these things if he truly believes them. There's no scientific or data or basis for any of this, in my opinion. It's a head scratcher.
And once again, I think what Bratton has built with his podcast and his YouTube channel is really strong. I think it's really, really strong. I was surprised.
But is that relevant?
When this clip
I'm not being
out.
Ugly when I say that. So to me, you should be held even more of a standard.
That's kind of why I'm like gasping.
We're surprised.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Is because this isn't. I don't think this is him. You know what I mean?
If you've built that to that level, and congratulations and kudos for doing that, but then you should be a little bit held to a higher standard on how you handle stuff like this and not report or comment on things like that, because it's not fly by night. So yeah, I think you should be a little bit more careful and held to a higher standard.
Yep. Okay. All right. So we want to throw up an extra show this weekend. So there we go. Big recruiting weekend. Obviously, we'll recap a lot of that on Monday's show. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Before that, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, including you, Zach. You're a great dad. So happy Father's Day to everybody. Enjoy your Father's Day weekend. DAP 6410 on X, a couple shows Monday and Tuesday on the Auburn Network, and then with you Wednesday and Friday. And next week, especially after this big recruiting weekend with football on the brains, I'm going to do the way too early depth chart projection for an article for Auburn Daily. We'll send that out probably Monday or Tuesday.
Fantastic. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We will see you Monday. This has been Locked On Auburn.